We have a first item on the agenda is a development update from Mike Glidden. So Mike, we'll turn over to you.
Thanks, Bob. Tom, could you upload the presentation? All right. So go to the next slide. So I'll just give I'm going to sort of go through a lot of the projects that are going on in town or just other points of interest for the group. The first stop will be 200 Hot Meadow Street. This is the Silverman project. It's a mixed-use development. The assisted living obviously has been completed. There's a 282 residential apartments that are associated. 269 of the 282 have been permitted. And of those 269, about 150 have received a certificate of occupancy.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, they're working. There's still a lot left of the project. You know, for example, as you're driving into the project, there's one commercial building that's on the southern edge of the driveway facing Route 10. There will be a second building that'll flank it to the north. It's about 11,000 square feet. That building, they're about hitting the number where under the approval from the zoning commission, they're going to be required to start work. We're still waiting to hear about the southern parcel. There was some discussion that something could be coming with the southern parcel. So that's the former actual campus for the Hartford Insurance, but we'll to be determined, or stay tuned on that. Tom, can you go to the next slide? So this is the approved. Actually, if you're not speaking right now, could you mute? That way we can cut back on the feedback. So this is just the approved plans. It kind of gives you an overview of the entire development. And on the lower, like I told you, the lower left-hand corner as you're driving in, the northern section of the driveway, that's that 11,000 square foot building that eventually will be built. We'll go to the next slide. So our next stop is Highcroft. So everyone may remember this is the Highcroft apartments, but also there's the townhouse phase, which the land works proceeded with the townhouse phase. There's 48 units there, which from when they went through the commission process, the comments was that very likely that portion of the project may be sold off. Well, Landworks and Nelson Construction decided to proceed with it. They have permits for all 48 units. 12 out of the 48 have been granted certificate of occupancies at this point. All of the units there have been granted building permits. So, 12 out of 48, we're looking good. They're still looking to finish that project, moving along, and it's been really an easy process with our building department and the inspections, et cetera. If you go to the next slide. So the next one, Mclean's Independent Living. They are looking to start work next week. Unfortunately, this project was delayed due to COVID. The contractor was not allowed to work on this. They had logistical issues they had to work out. So they're going to be breaking ground next week. This is it's a independent living apartments. It's 50. I have to remember now, 58 apartments there. But a lot of that is there's those little cottages if you're driving in towards Burkholder, which will be those will be demolished, at least a majority of them, in order to accommodate the construction of this new independent living facility. If you go to the next slide. So the next slide is just a view of what it'll look like from Hot Meadow Street. From Hot Meadow Country Club, I'm sorry. It's a large building. All the permits are in hand. And like I said, they're expected to break ground next week. You go to the next slide. So some people have asked what's going on with 34 Hot Meadow Street. Well, we being the zoning commission received the preliminary plans for 2 development pads. This would be the southeastern corner of the parcel, most adjacent to Chubb Insurance. One was a call for a self-storage facility. The other was a fitness development. The self-storage facility will be coming in. So this is an application that will be coming to the zoning commission probably in the next 60 days. They're working out the plans. Part of this development, they looked at sharing access with Chubb. So they've worked out that part of the deal, and hence why they're about 60 days out from submittals to our commissions. But this is a real application. Next slide. So design review at their next meeting, we'll be reviewing this. We have received indications that the Hurley Insurance or Foster's ice cream building of a redevelopment project. What you see there is a mixed use redevelopment project. It has apartments on the 2nd and 3rd floors and commercial space down below. They'll be before the design review board preliminary in 2 weeks, but this is another development project that's coming. You go to the next slide. I'm sorry if I'm actually, before we go to the next slide, does anyone have any questions of anything I've presented so far?
Mike,
go for it.
On 34 Hot Meadow, you said the self-storage is coming. The proposed fitness is not right now?
So the proposed fitness is most likely going to be a phase 2, mainly because the operator of that fitness facility, that specific fitness facility, is kind of reassessing things courtesy of the current climate. So they're going to wait on what they're going to do. But they're still talking to the group, but I would say that's phase 2. And we'll find out later this year, probably in the late fall, whether they're going to join the other half of the project, or the developer has said, you know what, we'll just change the plans and build something else in its place.
Okay. And
So,
for this one, the 894 Hot Meadow, how many units are proposed?
so I saw preliminary numbers at about 20.
Okay.
This one, what they showed was a lot of 1-bedrooms, studios. So it's going to be a very different. It's going to be obviously in the downtown, and there was discussions about partnering with a not-for-profit to provide supportive housing with individuals with intellectual needs. So we'll see whether that's going to come forward or not. But the bedroom counts are not changing.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Anyone else have any other questions?
Bob does,
So-
but he's on mute. Tom, can you unmute him?
I got it. He just did. So Tom, when you say redevelopment, are they going to tear down that house and rebuild it?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be a pretty large development that's going to occur in the place of that small structure that's there.
And Foster's going to relocate somewhere?
There's space on the first floor that they may be able to stay. So there's commercial space on the first floor. This is not a strictly residential development.
Okay.
But like I said, this is coming to my design review board. There'll be more plans. So anyone who's interested, please tune in to the design review board meeting, which is the first Monday in July. I don't have the date in front of me. July 6th. Please tune in because we have more details than what I'm showing here.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So we'll go to the next slide. I think everyone wants to know, how has COVID affected our permit activities? And really what we saw was, so last year, construction value, we did 57 million, or just roughly, just under $58 million in permit fees. However, 56 million of that was the solar project. So if you start taking out some of those larger projects that we did last year, we did about $3.9 million in building permits. That was for a period of basically looking from March 17th to May 5th. If we look at the same period this year, we did $3.5 million. So we're about $400,000 behind last year's numbers. However, for the most part, we really haven't slowed down. We're not seeing a slowdown in permit activity, because I know this number goes to May 5th. If we add in the rest of the month of May, I mean, we're still moving along. We're not at last year's number, but we're not meeting, excluding those larger projects. We're still seeing a lot of activity in town, a lot of interest. As I showed you a few preliminary things that are coming to the commissions. So there's still activity, which is a good thing. You go to the next slide. So I know that some people may be a little tired of hearing this, but I'm going to do my public service announcement on this. FEMA came up with new flood maps. They were released about 2 weeks ago. This is just a snapshot of what the new flood maps look like. They did resurveys. They did re-engineering or re-studies of the area. So limits of the floodplain have changed. Heights or elevation of the floodplains have changed. There are areas that previously were not mapped as floodplain that are now floodplain. And it's not just the Farmington River. They did a detailed study along Hop Brook, Stratton Brook, Minister Brook. So there's a lot of areas in town that were subject to this review. I just want to put that out there just so that people are aware of this, because it will affect people's insurance. And I think,
do you have an idea what the net increase? Do you have an idea what the net increase was? Like a 5% or 50%?
Are you talking about the overall area that they may be expanding?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like you're saying. They're expanding.
Yes. Yeah. So expansion versus retraction, it's kind of a balance, but not really. We've just received the digital maps. We have not received the GIS data. That's what we wanted to kind of really plug it into our GIS to really start looking at this in further detail. But one thing, that like what's showing on that slide right there, that black line with the number is the current flood elevation this is the WPCA treatment plant. So right now the base flood elevation is at 156. The new number is going to be 158. So they're experiencing a 2-foot increase. One difference there is the plant itself was taken out of the floodplain, because that area that's orange is the 500-year floodplain, which is non-regulatory. However, the berm that surrounds the plant, that's supposed to protect it from a 100-year storm event, is not sufficient to protect at a flood level at 158. So that's an example of here's someone who's been experienced a change in the floodplain, which will result in actions to further protect the infrastructure that's there. But honestly, this, like I said, I know this is not economic development related, but I wanted to send this out there just so people are aware of it. And if anyone has questions about it, please contact me in my capacity as the floodplain manager for the town. I'll be more than happy to assist anyone with these maps.
Well, it will affect development from the standpoint of areas that were not formally in the floodplain. If their insurance now requires them to carry that, that's a significant cost.
You're right.
Saying there, well, this is just that one area that it's gone up by 2 feet. But.
Yeah. And we just received these maps. It was a week from this past Friday. So I've been kind of trying to digest them for the past 2 weeks to kind of start getting a better handle of areas where of significant changes so they can point them out right away.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could do an overlay and get to see the area.
Yeah. And that's all I had for this evening. But if anyone has any other questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Okay.
Yeah, nothing for me, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike, quick question. Do you know what the occupancy percentage is at Ecology? By chance?
No, I do not. Actually, I was trying to contact the operator right before COVID, but obviously we haven't been able to connect.
Okay.
I've heard a varying degree of numbers, but I don't feel confident to share them in public because it's not from Anthology.
Oh, okay. And just to confirm, you said of the 269 units at Silverman, 150 have certificates of occupancy?
That's correct.
Good. Higher number than I thought. And they're still building homes in Carson Way. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for the update. Any other questions? Okay, so talking about business recovery. Anybody want to provide an update on outdoor dining for the restaurants?
Hi again.
Okay.
So we have several locations in town that have taken advantage of the temporary outdoor dining. So far, everyone's been following the rules, no issues. We'd only ask that you could spend some time, spend some money, and go visit some of these places.
So at our last at the design review board committee, Steve Antonio mentioned that this is my impression, that he felt that the restaurants in town were doing okay. Obviously, no one's doing great, but that the town of Simsbury had been very supportive. Do you have a sense for that? Of how the restaurants in town have fared throughout all of this, these challenging times? Is it Morgan, by chance? Do you have a sense? Or
am I still on mute, or is the phone okay? Okay, perfect. So that's pretty much exactly what you said. So no one's doing great, especially the restaurants who have obviously been hit particularly hard by everything, but they're doing okay. And basically, with indoor seating now being allowed, what the experience has been is people are taking advantage of outdoor seating, but there's still a lot of apprehension about going inside the restaurants. So they're seeing that some people are venturing inside and they're a little bit comfortable, but generally people are preferring to stay outside. So that phase 2 reopening of the inside of the restaurants really hasn't increased much traffic. They're still doing very well in terms of, or as well as it can be expected in terms of takeout and catering. So people are really supporting local businesses and any sort of catering opportunities. They're utilizing the restaurants in the area. But they're definitely obviously struggling. So they're really hoping that as things return to normal, that they can increase the business inside. For those businesses that have not been able to utilize an outdoor property for outdoor seating, they've been extremely hit hard by everything. So I think it definitely depends on whether outdoor seating was available to that specific restaurant. And of course, how long they've been in town. So a lot of restaurants that have regulars receive a lot more support because they already had people that had them on speed dial for Friday night takeout, whereas restaurants that are a little bit newer to the area are really having a hard time.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on one of Morgan's comments, I mean, one of the things is that a lot of the restaurants that had sites that had functioning areas to have outdoor dining, I mean, they decided to take advantage of it. And through, at least from our process, we were timely on inspections, timely on getting permits to them. I think the longest anyone had to wait was maybe 48 hours for a permit. We were trying to make sure that, knowing how much they need this extra little push, we tried assisting them in any way.
That's exactly the feedback I received as well from the restaurants, that the town was incredibly helpful with, turnaround and working with them on figuring out how to make it work. A lot of the restaurants weren't sure how to approach the situation, but we encouraged them, just reach out to the town and they will work with you in terms of figuring out a game plan. And that's exactly what they did experience. So those that had the opportunity to use outdoor seating, that's gone off very well. But some didn't have that option, and those are the ones that are really struggling.
Okay. Good, thanks. Yeah, everybody go out and do pickup tonight from your favorite local restaurant. All right, so we're going to get an oral report from Main Street. Sarah, at the last minute, let us know she was unable to attend tonight. You've all been receiving updates from her on the latest on the loans that are available, things to buy for, PPE and other things. Obviously, she's been extremely busy and working very hard to support our businesses, and I think doing a terrific job, as the chamber with Morgan. So, Morgan, you want to give us a quick update as well?
Sure. Did anyone want to speak to what Sarah had said in her email, or should I just do the chamber update?
Go ahead and use the chamber update.
Okay. So basically what I'm seeing is businesses are extremely eager to reopen. They, were chomping at the bit. They wanted the opportunity to have customers back at their places and really get connected with their regular clientele again. But there has been a lot of apprehension from their customers on a second wave. So that's been a recurring theme from the conversations that I've had with business owners, where their customers are worried, and therefore the business owners are worried as well about what fall is going to look like in terms of a second wave of COVID. So there is a lot of apprehension about that type of timing, but right now they're trying to make the best of it, and they're pushing ahead as much as they can. And I've been seeing a lot of collaboration and a lot of teamwork and local support, which is fantastic to see. The restaurants are very much using local farmers. They're collaborating with one another. Businesses are coming up with fun and creative ideas of how to work together to leverage everyone's contacts and relationships they already have. I see businesses that are combining, 2 to 3 local owners on one particular special for Mother's Day or Father's Day or what have you. So I love seeing the creativity behind that. The feedback I'm getting about the self-certify process has been that it's been a little daunting for some that are really required to look at each and every rule and abide by them. But so far, people have said they've been able to self-certify without a whole lot of issue. And so that has been relatively painless. But there's been a significant increase in expenses associated with reopening. So all of the PPE things that are required, this, sanitizer, hair salons, especially all of the smocks and things that they have to purchase for those types of things, and the secondary expenses that you wouldn't immediately think of. So the electric bill and the water bill of having to do more laundry with the smocks and things like that. So there's definitely been an increased expense to these businesses, and some have chosen to offset that with an increased price for service. So, and I think that's understandable. The restaurants, unfortunately, can't really do that because customers aren't going to want to go to a restaurant if they increase their pricing. But places like hair salons or nail salons are able to offset a little bit of their cost by saying, hey, this is what we have to do to supply you with the products and services you'd like. So there's a $1 or a $5 COVID charge for that type of protection. So I think that that's a good idea to help those businesses survive the climate right now. As I had mentioned last month, it's really dependent on the industry in terms of how this has affected everyone. So insurance businesses are doing just fine. Financial advisors, financial institutions, landscapers, contractors, they're all doing really well. Or I wouldn't say really well. We're all hurting on some level, but they're doing pretty well. And I think it's basically any business that doesn't have to have that close personal contact with their customer. And it's also businesses where previously when people are busy with their everyday lives, they might not think about their insurance premiums as much. But now that we're all stuck at home a little bit more and you have a little more time on your hands, they're shopping around for services and products like that. So those businesses are doing well. Restaurants are obviously still hurting a little bit, and takeout is extremely important to support them. Nail salons are still hurting because of the proximity to customers. The hair salons that I've spoken to, some have not reopened, and I have not been able to get a hold of very many in terms of finding out exactly why that is, but those that have reopened are doing very well. So it seems that they've taken on new customers from ones that have closed, and people just seem to consider that an essential to get in there and make sure that they have a trim and the hair color that they want. So that's nice for those businesses. I would say that massage, physical therapy, health clubs, any of those businesses are very much hurting right now. And, you know, businesses that are reliant on a higher risk group. So if your majority of your clientele is the elderly, then those are the people that are most apprehensive about returning to, you know, the businesses that they usually use. So I think that those local store owners are really struggling, and we need to make sure that we pay attention to how we can support them. In terms of some of the benefits that the Chamber's been able to provide, we're still doing a lot of networking, and the art trail is currently running. So I'm sure everyone has seen the sculptures throughout town. We have 37 sculptures, and the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive from the businesses, from the residents. It's really brought a huge amount of additional visitors to town, and, you know, encourage people to get out of their homes and visit these locations. So the feedback's been very positive from the business community in that they're able to reconnect with these people. You know, they're old customers and people that they haven't met before. So that's been really positive. Some of the issues that I'm seeing that have been relayed to me, a lot of the employees are not wanting to return to work because they're making more money on unemployment in a lot of situations. So that has definitely been a frustration for the small business owner. And that's across the board. That's including restaurants, you know, hair salons, shop owners. It's been a real struggle for them to get their employees back. And people are saying that they're seeing help wanted signs all over the place and nobody wants to take them up on it. So I'm sure once that funding stops, we're going to see a rush to the market of people trying to get these positions back, and there might not be opportunities available. So hopefully people see the writing on the wall there and start to come back to those positions that they had. There's been some customer pushback, unfortunately, about requirements for customers going into businesses now being required to have face masks on. So you would hope that in what everyone's experiencing today, everyone would be understanding that some restaurants are choosing to use disposable plates. Some businesses are required for customers to have masks, but there has been a lot of customer pushback in some cases. So I think we need to remind everyone to be compassionate and empathetic with everyone in the area, that we're all doing our best. And so another issue that's been brought to my attention is signage. I know the town's been, you know, very helpful in terms of being a little more relaxed with how much signage is permitted, but I'm still getting a lot of feedback from business owners saying that they want more opportunities to promote their businesses since they aren't having the normal traffic. So maybe that's a discussion that we can have at some point. You know, what are the current regulations, and could those be loosened a little bit more, at least for the immediate time being, to allow for these businesses to, you know, get their specials and things out on the, you know, near the road. And that's pretty much all I had. I have some upcoming events that professionals have the opportunity of getting involved in. Tomorrow morning is Good Morning Simsbury. So that information's on our website, and it's a networking meeting via Zoom. We have our first in-person ribbon cutting at Wine Etc., which is a new member, and that's in Simsbury Square, and that's on Friday at 4 p.m. The art trail's going until September 29th. We have the Granby and Simsbury Chambers of Commerce golf tournament September 1st, and that's over at Hot Meadow Country Club, and there's been fantastic engagement in terms of sponsorship. Businesses really want to promote themselves again, which is great. And we're scheduling a health expo that's going to be outdoors at Anthology on September 12th. So fingers crossed that we're allowed to do it at the time. We're going to have to play that one by ear, but that's going to be a really amazing event. And then we have got a spectacular event in October with the Performing Arts Center. So more details on that to come.
Oh, good. Have businesses in town who have applied for business loans and government financial help, have folks pretty much been able to get what they were looking for? I mean, the application processes, have that gone smoothly? Are people getting the money that they need to support their businesses in general?
Yes, in general, the process has gone pretty well. People have been able to receive the funding that they've applied for, even if it's not in the amount that they were hoping for, they have been able to receive that funding. And I have not received a whole lot of complaints about that application process. The financial institutions in town have been very on top of it, working, countless hours to make sure that businesses are, tended to in the way that they need to. So that's been positive. And the thermometer program that was going on, that went very well, and businesses were able to reopen with those supplies.
Okay, good. Thank you. Any other questions for Morgan? Okay, next up, Sherm, a report from you.
Yep, so library's doing well. Our curbside service has been very, very popular. Our virtual programming's gone really, really well. We've announced we're going to be virtual for the summer reading program this year. Some of the funds that we had that we would normally spend on in-person program, we chose to purchase gift certificates from local businesses that have supported the library in the past to help them out. And we're doing a raffle giveaway on those prizes this summer based on participation virtually. So we're looking forward to that. My contact flow has eased off in June. It's pretty much now that all the government guidance has gotten out there and people understand, how the forgiveness for loans and that is going to work. The contacts to me asking questions and that has really slowed down. So April and May were very heavy in contact back and forth. June, I'm probably around about half of where I was in May. So I think that's a good indication. One of the interesting things I'm hearing, especially with the PPP loan, is the small lenders have really started to eat the big lenders' lunch over that with small businesses. A lot of the large lenders weren't real excited about helping out small businesses with small loan amounts. I think you might have saw some of the news stories where it sounds like they were prioritizing their lending to larger customers. I've talked to several small business owners that basically were with big banks and have fired them or will be firing them and moving their business to smaller banks that were much, much more easy to work with and receptive to helping get the PPP loans. So that was very interesting to hear that. As far as job seekers, that still doesn't sound like there's really much going on there. I've heard some of the same complaints. Morgan mentioned that for your minimum wage workers, the unemployment is more money than they make working, so they're reluctant to return to work if they don't need to. I haven't seen a lot of people asking for assistance of us at the BRC for resumes and job seeking. I'm assuming that wave is going to be coming as the unemployment resources assistant goes away and some of these jobs aren't coming back. So I'm expecting that to surge at some point. We'll just have to see when. That's all I got.
Okay. Peter, I'm going to take the opportunity just to ask Sherm the question based on our email exchange the other day about co-working space, something to think about as we come out of the whole COVID economic impact. But with more and more people obviously working from home, people starting to realize I don't need to go back to the office. I may be looking for alternative approaches. Maybe I don't want to be at the office, but I'm a little tired of being at home. Might I start seeking some alternative spaces in town? And I'll let Peter talk more about it, but just something to think about as we start to move forward. But Peter, you want to comment?
Yeah, before this all happened, Sherman and I got together and we recognized that what he's doing with the library, hopefully will, before once they get back and up and running, the good deal with he'll be inundated with people wanting to use it as a co-working space. And then the idea is, where do we go to be the pressure release valve for that? And so I've taken that, and I have an office downtown, and talking to Sarah and actually my landlord, there's some folks starting to think about taking some empty space and either rent. They like the idea of renting it out to folks like me that, are a small business but are not working out of their house. But they also recognize that, gee, maybe there's some type of shorter term, less lease-oriented way to run a co-working space in privately held offices. And I've gotten some, I didn't know it, but there's a whole infrastructure for helping people that are thinking about this, from judging the market to pricing to getting the appropriate permits from the town. So what I'm going to continue to do, and hopefully I'm acting on what I believe is the EDC's blessing, is to do some walking around more downtown, talk to some of the business owners. I understand that the folks at Weldon have some space that they want to maybe turn into a co-working space. Try to get a group of like-minded business or people that own space to start thinking about it, seeing what their issues are for making this happen, and depending upon what those issues are, to the extent that the EDC may be able to help, come back to the EDC, report that out, and do what we think is necessary or what we can do to help them. But so right now it's still on fact finding, but just to reiterate, all I'm trying to do is to complement what Sherman and I talked about several months ago when we shared what he's doing at the library, and recognizing that with his success and the library's success, we're going to need a bigger capacity for co-working than we have now. So I'm going to keep working on that one. How's that, Bob?
Sounds great. I think there's a real opportunity there coming out of all this, that, everybody always looks for when things get really challenging, where's the opportunity? What can we do differently? And there's going to be a whole shift in I think, in how people work and where they work coming out of this. So to the extent we can capitalize on that and, help our property managers use additional spaces they may have available in their buildings, that would be great. So I think it's something we ought to pursue aggressively coming out of this.
Yeah, Peter, I'd like to, go ahead.
No, I'd just like to reiterate that I'll be doing this, and I'll be reporting back to Bob and the team, keeping everything in the air and in the light.
Okay,
yeah,
thanks.
I'd like to touch base with you at some point about this. Actually, before this position, I opened and managed a co-working space in West Hartford Center. So that's what I was doing for the last couple of years. So I'm well versed in all of it.
Well, Morgan, I actually walk by your office pretty much every day to go get coffee, and I'll continue. When I see you in there, I will knock on the door and we will talk.
Sounds good.
Just bring your mask.
Oh, always do it. And I'll bring my mask and my knowledge of my ignorance, with the idea that I'm certain that Morgan can help me with that problem.
Just bring a second cup of coffee too, and you'll be well received. Okay, a quick update on the Connecticut Council of Municipalities request for town response plan, the long-term recovery plan. Maria, I don't know if we have the one pager able to put up or. So we had a meeting to kind of kick this off, and I think the net result was that we really don't need a long-term plan for the town of Simsbury. That the work that Sarah's doing, that the work that the chamber's doing, the Morgan's doing, the other aspects of the town, the folks are doing, Mike's work, Parks and Rec, what have you, that we've got a pretty good handle on things, and things are progressing. And if there was a need to report back to the state of Connecticut, that's something we can do very, very easily. And I think tell a very positive story. So, however, there were some things that were brought up in the workshop that, I felt like it was still worth pursuing. And so if 90% of that activity covers, or the vast majority of the work that's already ongoing covers 90% of what we're looking to do from a long range plan, there's still some outliers that we probably want to cover. And so things like talking to our nonprofits like Gifts of Love or United Way or Food Share, talking to the Department of Social Services, talking to our religious leaders, trying to get a sense and feel from the community, what are the major issues and challenges of facing, the moms that are working at home and trying to balance, getting the kids through school at the same time, trying to get their own jobs done and maintaining the house. How are they doing? What are issues or challenges are they seeing? We want to reach out to as many different constituents as we can, just to get a sense of feel, to identify if there's any gaps in how we're responding to this whole COVID opportunity. So I put together this spreadsheet that tends to list the different constituents that we may want to reach out to. At the top, you see obviously the businesses. I'm not going to do anything with that because those folks have it under control. But can we start to reach out to some of the nonprofit organizations? I mentioned social services. I'm trying to put together, who's a contact, get their contact information, set up a time to talk to them, do an interview, and just start to collect their comments. So, and I'll do this all in the context of the business outreach program as part of the EDC, and really try to market the town's concerns that we have with the community at large on just touching base with them and saying, hey, how's everybody doing? What needs do you have? What are you seeing as the major issues and challenges of your constituents? And what can the town do to help you out? So that's something that I hope to be able to begin to complete, get this filled out as quickly as I can and start doing some interviews and be able to report back to the group by the next meeting on what I'm hearing. So if you get a chance, take a look at the spreadsheet, be interested in your feedback on maybe some groups that we haven't thought about that we should talk to, or some other additional comments or edits that you may want to make to it. I'm open to any suggestions from anybody in the group. And if I can figure out how to keep this screen up, I'll be in good shape. So that's all I had to report on that. Any questions or comments? Maria, any comments there?
Do you want help on that? Do you want someone to help you?
No? Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Always.
Let me know.
I'll give you a call, Tom.
Yep, thanks.
Yeah, thanks. And I was just going to add, and thank you to Bob for starting to put together this list. What we realized is that we have a pretty good, I think, infrastructure sort of in place through this EDC monthly meeting to really kind of report out on business recovery activities. It's really great that we've had some of our key stakeholders, which are Sarah from the partnership and Morgan from the chamber and Sherm, coming to the monthly meetings, helping to report out. Mike's been terrific reporting out on what we're seeing at the town level. And again, and having you all, that we have a pretty good, I think, mechanism for sort of reporting out on how recovery efforts are going. And then if there are any unmet needs, what are they? And then, I think leveraging this group in particular for any sorts of, volunteer opportunities, or just again, ways that this group can assist perhaps the Chamber or Main Street or SHRM and efforts as we continue to move forward in the recovery efforts. And we're very, very fortunate in that our social services department already receives generous donations from our community. And we do have a mechanism in place for assisting clients of theirs, whether it's through our food program, emergency rent assistance. We help folks with utilities and other needs. But really, I think to Bob's point with this list is it's also developing those other connections and having a mechanism to check in and see if there are unmet needs in the community, whether it's social service oriented needs for our residents or business needs. And so I think this is a really good start, and I appreciate Bob's willingness to go out and sort of again survey folks and see if there are again unmet needs that we can help with. So thanks to Tom for volunteering, and please, if others are interested in helping with the effort, I think that would just be absolutely terrific.
Very good. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. So anything else? Anything that anybody else wants to bring up?
I'm just wondering if has the role of this Economic Development Commission changed because of the COVID problems? We have ongoing committees doing various things. I'm assuming we're just going to keep doing those things. And then your new list. So is that basically the direction we want us to keep going?
Yeah, I think yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just add to that. I think absolutely, at least on our end, from a staff level on the town side, I know we've been pretty tapped out from a capacity perspective during the pandemic. And now we're also starting to go into very dry weather and starting to sort of deal with that as well. So it's been a little intense. And we really appreciate, the help of this group. So some of our more project-oriented work, unfortunately, again, at a staff level, we've had to take a bit of a back seat over the last few months. And that's where, again, I think this group is really helpful. As you're all starting to feel more comfortable with things like using Zoom to meet, or starting to venture back out into the world. If you can kind of keep some of those projects moving for us, I just know that, Mike and I would be deeply, deeply appreciative of those efforts. Because again, we've just been so flat out. So yeah, anything you can do to keep your work plan moving, we appreciate it.
Bob, just another comment on the sheet that you put together. I think it's fantastic and really perfect in terms of making sure that we have a well-rounded view of how the various organizations are being affected, not just the business and local economy on that level. It might be a good idea to add a point person line so that we almost have assignments of who we can reach out to, and that person can be the point person for that particular line item on your sheet. So for example, Peter had mentioned, I think it was Peter had mentioned his wife has a contact with Food Share and Gifts of Love. So she could be a point person for that. I would be happy to do the educational centers. I know that that's definitely, they've been hit extremely hard because people aren't comfortable yet putting a lot of their kids back into the daycare setting.
We will take you up on your offer. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anybody else want to bring any other topics up that they wanted to discuss as part of the meeting?
Yeah, Bob, I had a thought on an opportunity that's kind of in front of us now. One of the problems that we've had with marketing Simsbury has been it's remote, it's hard to get people to us, or hard to get businesses. With everybody working at home now, it kind of works in our favor. So I don't know if there's just some thoughts on what we could do to push that. I think when we had the economic task force, you had talked about the opportunity of getting high-speed fiber into town and making us more available on the internet or just with communications in that mode. I don't know if that's where that ended up. I don't think it ever actually came in. Maybe Maria knows where that is. But just the kind of general overall shift with people working from home is going to, I think, play into our strengths. Something we maybe think about from an economic development standpoint.
Yep. Mike, you were,
Where that ended up with there was a talk about bringing fiber into town and where that was going, and that's all, high-speed Wi-Fi available, those kind of things. Did that ever go anywhere? What's the status of that? Or maybe Mike knows? No?
No.
did we ever get the 5G network in town?
So you've had a few small cell towers go up, like the one that's in front of Maple Tree, one down near the high school. Also, Winslow Place has one. Those are supposed to fill the gaps in order to accommodate 5G. So they're slowly working at it, but it's at the carrier's pace.
No.
Is there anything that we could do on our end to help promote that, to get kind of, to be first in line on it as opposed to being the end?
We'd have to brainstorm an idea. I don't have an answer right now. I'm trying to think of direction. I don't know, Maria, do you have any?
No initial thoughts on that, but definitely open, to brainstorming on it and see if we can think of some ideas and solutions.
Just a thought, as I said, I think this plays into our strengths, where we've always had the weakness of being remote.
Yep. I would agree. Okay. Anything else? So in the.
Oh, Bob, I'm sorry, just real quick. I realized that we did forget to mention the 2 quick updates that Sarah had for us under the partnership updates. So if it's okay, could I just quickly touch on those?
Right ahead.
Great, thank you. So she noted that they are working with a couple, and they're planning to open, it's called Burn Boot Camp. It would be located in what was formerly the Teen Center space in the Andes Plaza, so on the back side of the building, that's on the Iron Horse side. And she said that they're also continuing to work with the Andreo family on their proposed facade improvement renovations. We don't have permits for it yet, but that she's been continuing to work with them on that as well.
So that facade, all they're going to do is just change the front of the building, make it a little more, look a little nicer, or not quite such an eyesore anymore. Is that the hope?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Still nobody moving in yet, though, huh? Oop, okay. All right. In the documentation sent out there, the minutes were attached. Does anybody have any changes to the minutes from the previous meeting on May 20th? If not, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve minutes.
All right, thank you. A second?
Second.
Okay, minutes approved. With that, we have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, second?
Seconded.
Okay, meeting's over. Thank you very much all for attending. We look forward to seeing you again next month.